Hello and welcome to the Flenox YouTube channel. In today's session, we're going to be walking through the JAMB Mathematics Past Question for 2023. Now, I've broken down this video into different parts, and in the first part, we're going to be looking through the first 10 questions. Now, I've included the link to the other parts in the description below, so do make sure to check that out. As you shall be walking through this question, if you have any question, please drop them in the comments and I'll do it to respond to them. I've also included links to tutorial videos related to the topics we'll be exploring, so you can further delve into those topics. And finally, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so and give this video a like. So without further ado, let's get started solving the JAMB Mathematics Past Question for 2023. So the first question says that what is the general term of the sequence 3, 8, 15, 13 and 18? Now this is a pretty straightforward question and there are different approaches to solving it, but for this purpose I'm going to be making use of a quick approach. So what I would do normally is to write down all the options, for example, because that works in this case. So 5n minus 2, 5n plus 2, then 5 and 5n, and try to fit in what they are going to resolve to for n equals to 1, n is equals to 2, and so on, and see which of them gives me this sequence, and that will be the correct option. So for example, when n is equals to 1, this is just going to be 5 times 1 minus 2, and that is 5 minus 2, and that is 3. Now for this case, when n is equals to 1, that is going to be 5 times 1 plus 2, which is 5 plus 1, and that is 7. And this, there is no n component, so everything is just a constant of 5. And finally, this is just going to be 5 times 1, which is 5. So as you can see, from everything, we see that our first term in the sequence is what? Is 3. And which of them gives us 3 as the first term in the sequence? Option A, or this. So that means this is the correct option. And just to verify, let's try to see what this will resolve to when n is equals to 2. So when n is equals to 2, you're going to have 5 times 2 minus 2. And 5 times 2 is 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. So you can see the first term is 3, second term is 8. Again, that makes option A the correct option. Or so now let's move on to the next question. Now the next question says that a bag containing 8 red balls and some white balls, if the probability of drawing a white ball is half the probability of drawing a red ball, then find the probability of drawing a red ball and a white ball if the balls are drawn without replacement. So just to make it a little bit more concrete, I'm going to draw the bag, and now we've been told that we have what? We have 8 red balls. Try to see if I can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we have some white balls. We do not know what those balls are. We do not know how many they are, but we know that we have some of them. We do not know what they are. The numbers we do not know. Now we thought that the probability of drawing a white ball, so we're going to try to express all of this in terms of equations. So I've been told that what? There are 8 red balls, so we have 8 red balls, but we don't know the number of white balls that we have, so I'm just going to put question mark white. Now we've also been told that the probability of drawing a white ball is half 1/2 of the probability of drawing a red ball. Now the question is, we should find the probability of drawing a red ball then a white ball without replacement. As you can see, the keyword without replacement. And what does that mean? It means that first I'm going to draw out a red ball, then without putting the ball back, then I'm going to draw another ball. And what is the probability of the first one being red and the second one being white? So from our law of probability, so the first thing we want to do, or we have to do now, is to figure out how many white balls do we have here, because we know how many red, but we do not know how many whites. How can we figure that out? Now from the law of probability, we know that the sum of all our probability must add up to 1, right? So in this case, the probability of drawing a red ball plus the probability of drawing a white ball must be equals to 1. Now, we know that the probability of drawing a white ball is half of the probability of drawing a red ball, so we can substitute that here. So this becomes the probability of red plus half of the probability of red, which is the probability of white, must be equals to 1. So this is just 1 plus half is 3/2 probability of red is equals to 1. So the probability of drawing a red ball is just going to be what? 2/3. And since we've said that the probability of drawing a white ball, is half of the probability of drawing a red ball. So that is just going to be half of the probability of drawing a red ball we've calculated to be 2/3. So the probability of drawing a white ball is what? 1/3, because this cancels out this. So now we just need to find the relationship of finding out how many white balls we have. So we've seen that for the probability of 2/3, you're just going to do like form of ratio. 2/3, we have 8 red balls. So now for a ratio of 1/3, which is the probability of the white ball, how many white ball are we going to have? So I'm just going to put that as W. Then we can cross multiply. Then we see that what? 2/3 W is equals to 8 times 1/3. Now this 3 cancels out this 3, and if I divide both sides by 2, W is equals to 8 divided by 2, and that is equals to 4. So what does this mean? It means we have 4 white balls. So now I can complete this, what I have over here, and just put it out as what? As 4 white balls. So I have 8 red balls and I have 4 white balls. So the question is now, what is the probability of taking a red ball? Now, what is the total number of balls we have? So the total number of balls now is just go to the number of red plus number of white, which is 8 plus 4, and that is equals to be what? 12. So the probability of taking a red ball then a white ball, that replacement to be, first there are 8 red balls in the bag. So the probability of taking a red ball will be 8 divided by, and total number of balls is 12. And this is like combination of event times how many white balls do I have in the bag? I have 4 white balls. But now, how many balls do I have all together or remaining? Because initially I'm taking out a red ball and the question says without replacement. That means I'll be left with what? 11 balls left, because I'm not replacing the balls back. So the first ball, 8/12, but the second ball, because there are still 4 white balls, but I've taken 1 ball out of there, so I'm left with 11 balls. So this is just going to be times 4/11. And simplifying this, 4 goes in 12 3 times, and that is what? 8/33. And that makes option D the correct option. Now, if you need further clarity on this, I will encourage you to check out my video on probability, the independent inverse combination of events, which I've put in the description of this video. So moving on to the next, we are told to solve the logarithmic equation log 6 minus x base 2 is equals to 3 minus log x base 2. So anytime you see a question like this, the first thing obviously you want to do is collect like terms. So I'm going to collect all the log terms to the left hand side. So this becomes log base 2 of 6 minus x, then plus, when I bring the log in the other side, comes plus log of x base 2 is equals to 3. Now, if you remember from our law of logarithms, if you have log of a plus log of b is the same thing as what? Log of a times b. That is one of the laws of logarithm that you should be familiar with. So applying that there, we have the plus sign, so this becomes a plus. So this becomes log of 2 times what? 6 minus x times x. I'm going to multiply both of those terms together is equals to 3. So now again, if you remember from our law of logarithms, if you have log a base b to be equals to n, is the same thing as saying a is equals to b to the power of n. So applying this, that we can use that to remove the logarithm sign over here. So this becomes what? 6 minus x times x is equals to, then this base comes over to the other side, as we have this b coming over to the other side, 2, and we'll raise it over to the exponent, to the value here, so 2 to the power of 3. Then we can expand what we have over here. So this becomes 6x minus x squared is equals to, and 2 to the power of 3 is 8. So let's bring this to the other side. So this is the same thing as saying x squared minus 6x then plus 8 is equals to 0. Now we reduce this to a quadratic equation. So we have to factorize this. We factorize by multiplying the first and the last term, and that gives us 8x squared. So what number can I multiply together to get 8x squared? But when I sum them up, I get minus 6x. So that'll be minus 4x and minus 2x. So I replace minus 6x with this term over here. So this becomes x squared minus 4x minus 2x plus 8 is equals to 0. Now I can factorize. X is common here into bracket x minus 4, and minus 2 is common into bracket x minus 4. So this becomes x minus 4 and x minus 2 is equals to 0. So this is either x minus 4 is equals to 0 or x minus 2 is equals to 0. So here x is equals to what? 4, or x is equals to 2, and that makes option A the correct option. Moving on to the next, we are told to find the matrix A if A times this equals to this. So what do? The first thing we have to do now is to say, oh, we know that to multiply two matrices together, we see that this is a 2 by 2 matrix. Okay, I'm going to write it. We are going to multiply A by a 2 by 2 matrix, and the result is a 2 by 2 matrix. Now from your matrices, you should know that, and by 2 by 2 I mean you have 2 rows and you have 2 columns. That means by definition A must also be a 2 by 2 matrix, because when you multiply a 2 by 2 matrix by 2 by 2 matrix, you get a 2 by 2 matrix. It is not clear. I don't want to go too in depth into this, but you can check out the description for where I put the link to matrices, so you can get a deeper understanding of the topic. So I can try to write A as a 2 by 2 matrix and just put in some terms to represent the values. So just put A, B, C, and D, and my B becomes what? Or I'm going to multiply that by 0, 1, 2, and minus 1. And we are told that the result is what? The result is 2 minus 1, 1, 0. So now what do? We try to expand this using matrix multiplication. Now, if you're not familiar with that, the way we multiply two matrices together, we multiply the first row by the column to get the first element. So this becomes A times 0, or A times 0 plus B times 2 plus B times 2, and that becomes the first term. The second term over here will be C times 0 plus D times 2. Now the term over here will be A times 1 plus B times minus 1. So that will be A times 1 plus B times minus 1. And the final term is going to be C times 1, D times minus 1. C times 1 plus D times minus 1. And we're told that that is equals to what? 2 minus 1, 1, 0. So we can try to expand what we have over here. We know that A times 0 is 0. And 2 times B is 2B. So that will be A plus 2B, which is 2B. Here, C times 0 is 0. D times 2 is 2D. So that will be 0 plus 2D. Here we have A times 1, which is A. And we have, in this second term, we have B times minus 1, which is minus B. And here we have C times 1, which is C. And we have D times minus 1, which is minus D. So we're writing that over here. Our element becomes was 2B, 2D, A minus B, and c minus d must be equals to 2 minus 1, 1, 0. So what do we have to do next? We just need to equate each of these terms to find out what the values of those unknown are. So we can just say 2b, which is this element here, is equivalent to this element here, must be equals to 2. So we know that b is 1 if it's variable size by 2. We can apply the same concept here. We know that 2d must be equals to 1 also. So we say 2d must be equals to 1, and if it's variable size by 2, we see that d is equals to half. Moving on to the next value over here, we have a plus b, and in this case now, that must be equals to what? Minus 1. And we've gotten b to be equals to 1. We've gotten b to be equals to 1, right? Yeah, we've gotten b to be equals to 1. So how do we go about that? We've gotten b to be equals to 1. So that becomes a minus 1 is equals to minus 1. So a becomes minus 1 plus 1, which is equals to 0. And finally, we have our d. We have, so c minus d is equals to 0. And we've gotten our d to be half. So c minus half is equals to 0. So c is equals to what? Half. So now we know that our matrix A, when we were starting off, we represented it as what? A, B, C, and D. So we can find all those values that we've calculated down and put it in there. So what is the value of A? The value of A is 0. The value of B is 1. The value of C is half. And the value of D is half. So the matrix A is what? 0, 1, half, half. And that makes option B the correct option. For more clarity, I encourage you to check the description where I've included a link to videos on matrices, and that should help you develop a stronger understanding of the subject. So moving on, we're told that a boat sails 8 km north from P to Q, then sails 6 km west from Q to R. Calculate the bearing of R from P. So the first thing we need to do is try to draw this, or try to represent it with diagrams. So I'm going to draw my 4 cardinal points. You have your north, south, west, east. Now we told that it started from P. Let's put it over here. And it traveled north. So it traveled upwards to a point Q, a distance of what? 8 kilometers. It travels for 8 kilometers. Now when it got here, I'm going to draw my cardinal point at point Q again. You have your north, south, west, and east. But this time around, it sailed west, so it moved in this direction for 6 kilometers to a point what? To a point R. So it moved to this point R. So the question is asking us that what is the bearing of R from P? So we're going to draw a line connecting R and P, and by the bearing of R from P, what they're asking us is to calculate the angle over here, this angle over here. So now we know that the angle in the point is 360 degrees. So the angle total here is going to be 360 degrees. So if we can find the angle over here and minus it from 360, we can calculate the bearing, and let me call that theta, which is what we're finding. So as you can see, what we have here is a right angle triangle, and the right angle is over here, and distance here is 8 and distance here is 6, and we're trying to find this angle over here. Let me call it x. So if we're trying to find this angle, what do we have? We have the opposite, because here is opposite, or we know the value of the opposite. This is the hypotenuse and this is the adjacent, and we know the value of the adjacent. So from our trigonometric ratio, we know our so, ka, twa. So which of them contains the opposite and the adjacent? If you know the opposite and the adjacent, which is O and A, we'll make use of the tangent. So we can write that tan theta, or tan x in this case, will be equal to the opposite over the adjacent. Now, tan x will be equal to, what is the opposite? The opposite is 6 and the adjacent is 8. So x will be equal to tan inverse of what? 6 over 8. And what is the tan inverse of 6 over 8? That is going to be 36.87. 36.87. Yeah. So that means the angle over here, x, is what? 36.87. But we're not told to find this angle. We're told to find the bearing of r from P. So we're told to find this other angle. So the angle theta, which is the bearing, is just going to be what? 360 minus 36.87. And that is what? That is just going to be 323.13, or to the nearest number, 323 degrees. And that makes option B the correct option. For more clarity on bearing trigonometric ratio, check out the description. I've included link to videos on that. So moving on, we're told that an article when sold for 230 naira makes a 15% profit. Find the profit or loss percent if it was sold for 118. So we're told that an item, let's call the price of the item S. So let the price be X. Let the price is equal to X. So we are told that if we sell it for a profit of 15%, so selling it at a profit of 15% is we sell it at value of 1 plus 15% will just be 0.15. When you convert 15% to fraction, is 0.15. So that means times X is equals to what? 230. And what does this mean? It means 1.15 of X is equals to 230. So that means when I multiply this item by 15% profit, and that is why I'm adding this 0.15, because that will increase the original price of this value. So the value was what? 230. So now that means the original price. To find the value of X, I just need to divide both sides by 1.5, or 1.15 rather, and X will be equals to what? Equals to 200. So that means the original price was 200, and if you find it, 15% of 200 is 30. So that means you made a profit of 30, and that is why 30 plus 200 is 230. So that is why when the original price was 200 and you sold it at a 15% profit, you sold it for 230. But now I found the original price. Now we've been told that, oh, if it is sold for 180, now we can see that we are selling it at a lower price than the original price. So definitely we are going to be making a loss. So that means option A and option D are not feasible because they are both gains, and we are selling it below the original price. So now, so the percent loss, it equals to what? The cost price minus the selling price over the cost price times 100. That is formula for the percentage loss. And now what is the cost price? It cost us 200 because that's the original price, but we're selling it for 180, which is the selling price, and the cost price is what? 200. Then times 100. 200 minus 180 is 20 over 200 times 100. 0 cancel, this 2 0 cancels to 0, and we have 20 divided by 2, and that is 10%. So we are making the what? A 10% loss from this transaction, and that makes B the correct option. Moving on to the next, we are told that the area of a circle is increasing at a constant rate of 1.5 cm squared per second. Now we should find two 3 significant figures, the rate at which the radius r of the circle is increasing when the area of the circle is 2 centimeters squared. So now this is a classic application of differentiation where you are trying to find the rate of change. In this case, the rate at which the radius is increasing. But let's first try to write down what we are given. We're told that the area, so let's call the area of the circle A. We've told that is A. So we're told that the rate at which the area is changing with time. So the rate at which the area is changing over dt, we have been told that that is what? 1.5. That is the rate of change of the area with time, the area of the circle. Now we are told to find the rate at which the radius is changing. So we are told to find dr over dt, which is, we should find this when the area is what? When A is equals to 2 cm squared. So the first thing that we're going to try to do now is to try to find out, or to try to figure out, what exactly is dr over dt. Now if you look at this carefully, you can see that the r over dt can be written as what? Can be written as what? can be written as dA over dt times what? Times dr over dA. And looking at this carefully, you can see that dA will cancel out this dA and left with dr over dt. Now, we've been told what dA over dt is from our question. We're told that dA over dt is 1.5. So I can write that dr over dt is equals to what? 1.5 times dr over dA. So I need to figure out what dr over dA is. Now, let's go back to the formula of the area of a circle. We know that the formula for the area of a circle is what? Is pi r squared, right? So if I differentiate this with respect to the radius, so that would be dA over dr is equals to what? That would be 2 times pi times r. So now, if I make, so that will mean invariably like what? If I flip this other side to find the inverse, that will mean dr over dA is equals to what? 1 over 2 pi r. Does that make sense? Fantastic. So we can substitute that here. So that means dr over dt is equals to what? 1.5 times 1 over 2 pi r. So dr over dt will be equals to what? 1.5 over 2 pi r. But now we've been told to find dr over dt when the area is 2 centimeters squared. Now we've only been given the area. We're told the area is 2 centimeters squared, but we know that the area of a circle is pi r squared. So thankfully we can use this knowledge to figure out what the radius is. So now we're told that the area is 2, so 2 will just be equals to what? Pi times r squared. So dividing both sides by pi, I have r squared is equals to what? 2 over pi. And if I find the square root of both sides, I can see that r is what? Just the square root of 2 over pi. So I can substitute that into the value of r here to find what dr over dt is. So this becomes 1 over 5 over 2 pi, and the radius is what? Square root of 2 over pi. Now when you punch all of this into your calculator, you're going to get 0.299 centimeter per seconds, and that makes option D the correct option. Again, this is a question on the application of differentiation. So if you are not familiar with differentiation, I encourage you to watch my full tutorial video on differentiation, which I've included in the description. So moving on to the next question. We are told that a student is using a graduated cylinder to measure the volume of water and reports a reading of 18. Now, the teacher reports the value as 18.4. What is the student's percentage error? Now, we know that the percentage error is equals to the actual value minus the measured value over the actual value times 100. Now, in this case, what is the actual value? The actual value is the standard value or the correct value. And from our question, we know that the correct value will be given by the teacher because that is what the teacher reports. So the actual value is what? 18.4. And what did the student measure instead? He measured 18. So divided by the actual, which is 18 times 100. So this is what? This is just going to be 0.4. Oh, sorry, the actual is 18.4. So this is divided by 18.4. So 18.4 minus 18 is 0.4 divided by 18.4 times 100. And when you punch that into your calculator, you get 2.17%. And that makes option A the correct option. Moving on to the next. We are told to find how many different 8-letter words are possible using the letters of the word syllabus. Now, this is a permutation question. And a permutation question in the sense is, in how many ways can we select 8 letters from this? Now, we're going to use permutation because the order does matter. For example, the word syllabus, for example, syllabus itself is not the same thing as the word YSLLABUS, although they both consist of the same letters. So in this case, the order of the arrangement do matter, and that is why we're going to make use of permutation. If you're not familiar with permutation and combination, I'll put a link to that tutorial video in the description, because that is really important to understand, and I don't want to go too deeply into explaining that, so you can watch that in the tutorial video in the description. But what we can do now is try to apply that concept over here. So we're going to make use of permutation, and we know that what n permutation r is equals to what n factorial over what n minus r factorial. So in this case, how many letter words is syllabus? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's eight letter words, and we want to select 8 letters, so that will be 8 permutation 8, and that is what 8 factorial over 8 minus 8 factorial, which is what 8 factorial over 0 factorial. And we know that 0 factorial is 1, so that is 8 factorial over 1, which is 8 factorial. At this stage, you might be tempted to say, yeah, the correct option is D, but there's one more complexity to consider. Now, if you look at this word over here, you can see that there are 2 similar words, like there are 2 L's and there are 2 S's. So what does that mean? Imagine in this first word, if I had written this first word as LL, and I come again, I write the second L before the first L, and I write the first L before the second L, like it doesn't really matter, because they are both the same letters and there's no way you can differentiate them. So that reduces the amount of possibilities in which you can select different letters, because for the letter L and for the letter S, you cannot, they do not matter in what order they appear, because they are the same letter. So what does that mean? That means we have to divide our results by the factorial of the number of times we have repeating numbers. So in this case, we have S repeating 2 times, so that's going to be divided by what? Divided by 2 factorial, and we also have L repeating 2 times, so dividing by what? 2 factorial. So that means the correct option is going to be 8 factorial over 2 factorial, 2 factorial, and that makes option C the correct option. For more clarity, as I've mentioned, watch the tutorial video on combination and permutation, and that will definitely add clarity to this. Moving on to the final question in our first part, we're told to find the compound interest on 15,700 for 2 years at 8% per annum compounded annually. So now we know that the value for a compound interest is equals to what? The principal, you have to know this formula, plus 1 plus the interest raised to power the time. So now, what is going to be the value after 2 years? So after 2 years, V is going to be, how much am I investing? 15,700. 1 plus, what is my interest rate? My interest rate is 8%. So in fraction, that is just going to be 8 divided by 100, which is 0.08. So I'm going to put plus 0.08, and my time is what? 2 years. So my value is just be 15,700 times 1.08 squared. Now when you put this in your calculator, you get 18,312.48. But the question is not asking us for the value. The question is asking us for the interest. So the interest that would have accrued, the compound interest, will be equal to what? The current value minus the amount I invested on my principal. So the compounded interest will be the current value of my investment, which is 13,312.48, minus my initial investment, which is 15,700, and that is equals to what? That is equals to 2612.48 naira. So after investing my money compounded for 2 years, this is the amount of compound interest that I would have accrued, and that makes option D the correct option. Now that brings us to the end of the first part of our JAMB Past Question for 2023. If you have any question, please drop them in the comment and I'll do well to respond as soon as I can. And I'll see you in the second part. Bye for now.